The airport was buzzing with rushing passengers and rolling suitcases, loud, chaotic, and completely normal, until one moment shattered everything. Officer Mark and his K9 partner, Rex, were making their routine sweep when Rex suddenly froze mid-step. His ears shot up, his muscles tightened, and then, without a single command, he lunged toward a black suitcase circling the conveyor belt. "Rex, heel!" Mark called out, but Rex didn't listen. He growled, a deep, unfamiliar growl Mark had never heard in years of service. Claws scraped against the suitcase as he tried to tear it open. Desperate, frantic, almost panicked. Passengers backed away. Security rushed over. The suitcase's owner stood trembling, insisting he had no idea what was inside. Mark knew something was wrong. Rex wasn't reacting to explosives. He wasn't reacting to drugs. This was different. This was fear. Rex was afraid of whatever was in that suitcase. Why would a trained K9 fear a bag? And what was inside that made a fearless police dog almost break down? What they discovered moments later left the entire airport in stunned silence. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The airport was alive with the usual morning chaos, rolling suitcases, blaring announcements, and passengers rushing through the terminal like a river of noise and movement. Travelers yawned as they queued at check-in counters, parents hurriedly pushed strollers, and flight attendants weaved through the crowd with practiced speed. To everyone else, it was just another ordinary day. But for Officer Mark, standing near the baggage inspection area with his K9 partner, it was the beginning of something he would never forget. Mark adjusted the leash in his hand as he glanced down at Rex, a trained German shepherd with keen eyes and razor-sharp instincts. Rex sat calmly beside him, his ears twitching as he scanned the area. He had been through thousands of inspections before, drug checks, explosive sweeps, random sniffs of luggage. But today felt a little different to Mark, though he couldn't explain why. Passengers moved around them without paying much attention. Some smiled at Rex from a distance, admiring his disciplined posture. Others walked past nervously, unsure if they were allowed to approach. Mark gave Rex a gentle pat on the neck. "Easy, boy. It's just a regular shift," he muttered, though even he wasn't sure why he felt the need to say it. Rex didn't respond, but his quiet stillness said everything. He was focused. The conveyor belt suddenly clattered to life, making a few passengers jump. Mark watched as the first set of suitcases slid down, their hard shells thumping lightly as they lined up in a row. Rex stood up immediately, his nose twitched, his eyes narrowed. Mark didn't think much of it at first. This was normal for the start of any luggage scan. Nearby officers joked casually, sipping their morning coffee. A mother lifted her child to help him see the luggage belt. A businessman typed rapidly on his phone, barely looking up. Life inside the airport moved exactly as it always did. Busy, predictable, routine. Mark walked a few steps forward with Rex, giving him space to sniff the air. "All right, buddy," he said, voice steady. "Let's get through this batch. Then we take a break." Rex didn't look up. Instead, he seemed unusually alert, breathing a little heavier, eyes sharper than usual. Mark frowned. "You okay?" he whispered. Rex didn't break focus, and in that moment, though Mark didn't yet understand, Rex had already sensed something wrong somewhere ahead of them. Something coming down the belt. Something no human eye could detect. But for now, the airport remained a picture of normalcy, completely unaware that in just a few minutes, everything would change. Rex had always been steady, calm, controlled, and incredibly disciplined. But today, Mark noticed something he hadn't seen in years of working together. The German shepherd's breathing had changed. It was slightly faster. His chest rose and fell with a quiet tension, as if he were preparing for something unseen. Mark crouched beside him and gently brushed his hand along Rex's back. "Hey, what's going on with you today?" he murmured. Rex didn't break his focus. His ears stayed pointed straight ahead, and his nose kept twitching, picking up scents Mark couldn't even imagine. At first, Mark assumed it was just the usual airport smell, Perfume, food, gasoline from the runway, 1,000 different scents mixing in the air. But Rex wasn't reacting randomly. His head moved very slowly, tracking something invisible to everyone else. Not a passenger, not a sound. Something different. A few officers nearby laughed loudly at a joke, but the noise didn't distract Rex. He remained stiff, eyes darting toward the conveyor belt, as if waiting for a signal only he understood. Mark straightened up, a crease forming between his eyebrows. Rex wasn't a dog who got anxious without reason. Every reaction he ever had came from instinct, sharp, unfailing instinct. Passengers continued to crowd the area. A family rolled 3 bright red suitcases toward the drop-off point. A young woman hurried past, clutching her passport, late for her flight. Someone's phone rang loudly, followed by frustrated whispers. To everyone else, the airport felt normal. But Rex's body language told a different story. He took one step forward, then another. His nose lifted slightly as he sniffed the air again, deeper this time. Mark tightened his grip on the leash. "Rex, heel," he commanded softly. Rex hesitated, which almost never happened. Then he reluctantly stepped back, still staring at the conveyor belt that hadn't even brought anything unusual yet. Mark exchanged a look with another officer. "He okay?" the officer asked casually. "Yeah," Mark replied, though his voice carried doubt. "Just alert." Alert wasn't the right word. Rex almost looked worried. Mark tried brushing it off. Maybe Rex sensed someone carrying food. Maybe there were strong chemicals in a nearby bag. Maybe it was nothing. But deep down, Mark felt the same uneasiness Rex did, like a storm forming quietly in the distance. The conveyor belt shook slightly as more luggage prepared to drop. Rex stood completely still now, staring at the empty metal track. Whatever was bothering him, it was getting closer. And Mark had no idea that his partner's instincts were already warning him about the danger that was only moments away. A loud metallic clank echoed through the baggage area as the conveyor system powered up again. Several passengers turned their heads instinctively, watching the empty belt begin its slow, steady movement. The black rubber surface rattled rhythmically, carrying the first set of suitcases from the unloading zone toward the inspection line. Rex lifted his head immediately. Mark felt the leash tighten in his hand as the German Shepherd stepped forward, eyes locked on the belt with laser-like focus. This was routine. Suitcases came, suitcases went, and Rex scanned them like a machine. But today, Mark sensed a deeper intensity radiating from him, something sharper and heavier than normal alertness. The first suitcase, a bright blue one, slid onto the belt. Rex didn't react. He only watched. Then a yellow duffel bag thumped onto the moving surface. Still nothing. A black backpack followed, bouncing slightly as it landed. Rex sniffed the air but didn't move. Passengers gathered along the metal railing, waiting impatiently for their luggage to appear. A little boy pointed at Rex, whispering excitedly to his mother. "Look, a police dog!" She smiled nervously and nodded, pulling him closer. A businessman adjusted his glasses and checked his watch, tapping his foot in annoyance. A flight attendant stretched her neck, scanning for her crew bag. Everything seemed ordinary, but Rex's breathing grew heavier. Mark crouched slightly, trying to read his partner's body language. "What is it, boy?" he whispered. Rex didn't blink. His whole body leaned forward, muscles tightening under his fur as another suitcase came into view. A medium-sized green case with stickers all over it. Rex sniffed, then looked away. Not the one, but he was waiting for something. Mark's heart rate picked up. The last time he saw Rex behave like this was during a massive drug bust at another airport. Rex's instincts had been perfect that day, and whatever he was sensing now felt even stronger. More luggage appeared. Brown suitcase, red suitcase, black suitcase. Each one made a soft thud as the belt carried it closer. Officers nearby watched lazily, their morning still calm. No one else noticed the subtle tension forming around Rex. Mark swallowed. He felt it. Rex wasn't just alert, he was tracking, not visually but by scent. Something on that belt was getting closer with every passing second. The conveyor belt hummed loudly as another suitcase prepared to drop. Then another, and in that rising tension, Mark realized something chilling. Rex wasn't reacting to what he saw. He was reacting to what he knew was coming. Something dangerous was about to appear, and they were seconds away from it. The conveyor belt rattled again, louder this time, as another batch of luggage slid down from the unloading chute. People leaned forward, trying to spot their bags. Mark kept his eyes on Rex, because Rex wasn't watching the passengers. He wasn't watching the officers. He wasn't even blinking. He was waiting. Then it happened. A dull gray suitcase, medium size, scratched on the sides with no stickers or tags, dropped onto the belt with a heavy thud. The moment it landed, Rex's reaction was instant and explosive. His ears shot forward. His tail stiffened. His entire body straightened like a drawn bow. Rex inhaled sharply, nose twitching at a rapid pace. His right paw lifted slightly, his silent signal. Mark felt the leash jerk as Rex stepped forward, muscles coiling with tension he couldn't hide anymore. Mark's breath caught. "Rex, what is it?" he whispered. But Rex wasn't listening. He was locked onto the suitcase as if it were alive. The gray suitcase moved slowly down the belt, inch by inch, getting closer to the inspection area. Passengers didn't notice anything unusual. They continued chatting, checking phones, complaining about delays. An elderly man reached for his cane. A woman lifted her toddler onto her hip. Life carried on around them, normal, unaware. But Rex's world had narrowed to one single object. Mark's heartbeat quickened. He had seen this exact posture before, but only in situations where real danger was present. Explosives, illegal substances, human scent trapped inside a container. Something that Rex knew was wrong long before anyone else did. Rex lowered his body, preparing to spring. "Hold on, boy. Not yet," Mark said firmly, tightening the leash with both hands. Rex growled softly, a deep, trembling rumble that Mark felt in his bones. The officers nearby finally took notice. "Mark, he all right?" one asked. "No," Mark answered honestly. "Something's off. He's fixated." The suitcase slid closer. Rex paced one step, then another, unable to control his instincts. His breathing turned sharp. His eyes tracked every movement of the suitcase with absolute precision. He wasn't acting confused. He wasn't acting curious. He was acting certain. The suitcase passed the halfway mark on the belt. Rex lunged forward, but Mark held him back. "Easy, wait," he hissed. Passengers turned their heads at the sudden sound. The suitcase kept coming, closer, closer. And by the time it reached the final inspection point, Mark realized something terrifying. Rex wasn't just alert, he was afraid. Something inside that suitcase wasn't just suspicious, it was dangerous. The gray suitcase slid into the main inspection zone, rolling gently before settling against the metal rail. Officers barely had time to glance at it. To them, it looked like any other bag. Ordinary, unremarkable, harmless. But Rex didn't see an object. He sensed a threat, and he couldn't wait any longer. With a sudden, explosive movement, Rex lunged forward. Mark had only a split second to react, but it wasn't enough. The leash ripped through his fingers as Rex tore free with a force he had never shown before. The German Shepherd sprinted toward the suitcase, his claws screeching against the polished airport floor. Passengers gasped. Some stepped back instinctively. "What's happening?" someone whispered. Rex didn't bark at first. He attacked. He slammed into the suitcase with his full weight, knocking it off the belt and onto the ground. The loud crash echoed across the baggage area. People screamed, scattering in panic. A woman grabbed her child and moved back. A security officer dropped his coffee, frozen in shock. Then Rex began barking, loud, sharp, frantic barks that shook the air. He tore at the suitcase with his teeth, ripping at the zippers. His paws thumped violently against the hard shell as he tried to claw it open. Each sound felt urgent, desperate, like he was fighting against time itself. "Rex, stop!" Mark shouted, sprinting toward him. Two officers rushed in to help, but Rex was relentless. His teeth scraped the corners. His claws scratched deep grooves into the plastic. Foam gathered around his mouth, and his growls echoed through the terminal. Passengers backed away fast now, forming a wide circle. "Is it a bomb?" someone yelled. "Why is the dog doing that?" another cried. Mark reached Rex and grabbed the harness, pulling with all the strength he had. "Rex, heel! Heel!" he yelled, but Rex refused. He twisted violently, breaking free again, and launching himself onto the suitcase with even more fierce determination. This wasn't aggression. This was fear. Raw, instinctive fear, and nothing could shake him out of it. A male officer shouted, "Everybody move back, now!" The area surrounding the baggage drop emptied in seconds. Phones came up as people recorded the scene. Officers sealed the perimeter. Alarm lights flashed overhead. Rex's barks grew more frantic. He pressed his nose into the cracks, whining between growls, trying to get inside, like something alive was trapped in there. Mark stared at the suitcase, heart pounding. Whatever was inside, Rex was telling them it wasn't just dangerous. It needed to be stopped. Immediately. The loud crash of the suitcase and Rex's furious barking sent shockwaves through the entire baggage area. People stood frozen, unsure whether to run or stay back. Officers blocked the crowd, forming a tight perimeter. The atmosphere turned heavy, thick with fear and confusion. Then suddenly a man stepped forward. He was in his late 30s, dressed neatly in a dark jacket and carrying a passport in one shaking hand. His eyes darted nervously between the officers and the suitcase on the floor. He swallowed hard before speaking. That's my bag," he stammered. Mark turned sharply toward him, instantly alert. "Sir, stay where you are," he ordered. The man raised both hands slightly, palms facing outward. I don't know what's happening. I swear I didn't do anything wrong." His voice trembled, almost cracking. Rex, hearing the man's voice, spun around and locked eyes with him. His growl deepened, teeth baring. His fur bristled with tension. That alone made several passengers back away further. The man's knees wobbled. "Please, I'm telling you the truth," he whispered, fear creeping into every word. One officer stepped in front of him. "Sir, we need you to stay calm and answer a few questions." But the man couldn't stay calm. His breathing quickened. Sweat glistened on his forehead. His fingers trembled as he held his passport. "I don't know why the dog attacked it. I didn't put anything inside. Nothing illegal, I promise." Mark exchanged a glance with two nearby officers. Something wasn't right. The man's fear was too intense, more than what an innocent traveler would normally show. "Where are you coming from?" an officer asked. "Turkey," the man answered quickly. "Transit flight. I'm just here for a connection." His voice was shaky, the words rushed. Mark stepped closer, still watching Rex, who hadn't looked away from the man even for a moment. "Sir," Mark said firmly, "did anyone else handle that suitcase?" "No, no one. It's just my clothes. Just clothes. I swear." His breathing hitched. His eyes kept flicking toward Rex, who was now pacing in a tight circle, growling at both the bag and the owner. Passengers exchanged worried whispers. "Why is he so nervous? Did he put something inside? Look at the dog. He knows something." The officers didn't say it aloud, but they all felt the same tension rising. Mark stepped toward Rex and placed a hand gently on his back. Rex didn't calm down. His muscles remained locked, his eyes burning with determination. Meanwhile, the man's face turned pale, almost ghostly, as he watched the dog. He wasn't just scared of being questioned. He was scared of what Rex already knew, and Mark felt it in his gut. This man wasn't telling the whole truth. Rex stood planted in front of the gray suitcase, his body tense like a loaded spring. His chest rose and fell rapidly, each breath sharp and heavy. Mark kept a firm grip on his harness, but Rex wasn't responding to commands. He wasn't even hearing them. His eyes stayed fixed on the suitcase, or the man who claimed it. "Rex, heel," Mark said again, voice low but firm. Nothing. Rex growled, deep and guttural, the kind of sound that came only when he sensed extreme danger. His paws scraped the floor as he tried to surge forward again. Mark tightened his grip, his arm muscles shaking under the dog's strength. Passengers watched from a distance, whispering anxiously. "Why won't the dog stop? He's never wrong. What if something's inside? Oh God, is it a bomb?" The nervous man shifted on his feet, eyes wide and darting. His fingers trembled as he gripped his passport like it was the only thing keeping him steady. He stepped back a little, and Rex snapped his head toward him instantly. The dog barked so loudly the man flinched. "Sir, don't move," Mark warned. I'm just scared." "The dog is acting like I'm dangerous," the man said, voice cracking. One officer muttered under his breath, "Maybe you are." Rex pulled again, this time harder. Mark nearly lost his balance. Two officers quickly stepped in to help restrain the dog, but even combined, they struggled to keep him still. Rex's strength was unlike anything they had seen from him before. "Easy, Rex! Easy!" Mark shouted. But Rex wasn't easing. He wasn't calming. He wasn't backing down. His nose pressed close to the suitcase again, sniffing hard, whining between furious barks. The sound wasn't aggression. This was desperation, like he was trying to warn them about something terrible inside. Mark's heart pounded. He knelt beside Rex and placed both hands on the dog's shoulders. "Buddy, talk to me," he whispered, even though he knew Rex couldn't speak. But Rex's body told him everything. Stiff muscles, rigid posture, trembling legs, rapid breathing. This wasn't normal alarm. This was fear. Not fear for himself. Fear for everyone else. Suddenly, Rex jerked violently toward the suitcase again. His claws screeched against the floor as he dragged the three officers forward with him. The leash strained under the pressure. "Mark!" one officer shouted. "We can't hold him much longer." Mark stared at Rex's eyes, filled with urgency he had never seen before. Rex wasn't just reacting. He was begging them to act. Whatever danger he sensed. It wasn't small. It wasn't distant. It wasn't theoretical. It was right there, inside that suitcase, and Rex knew they were running out of time. Rex's frantic behavior pushed the tension to a breaking point. His growls grew sharper, and his body shook with the force of his instincts. Mark looked up at the officers surrounding them, his voice steady but urgent. "Activate protocol, now!" The words hit the room like a shockwave. A senior officer immediately reached for his radio. "Security alert, level 2. Clear the area. Repeat, clear the area, now!" His voice boomed through the terminals as red emergency lights began flashing overhead. Suddenly, everything changed. Passengers who were earlier recording with their phones now backed away in panic as uniformed officers poured into the baggage zone. "Move back! Step away from the conveyor area!" they shouted, guiding people toward the far walls. A mother clutched her daughter. A businessman dropped his briefcase. A group of tourists whispered frantically in another language. The air filled with fear and confusion. The nervous owner of the suitcase stepped back even farther, his face drained of all color. "Please," he begged, "I don't know why this is happening." But officers surrounded him now, forming a tight circle several meters away from Rex. Mark ignored the man for the moment. His entire attention was on Rex and the suitcase. Two officers wheeled in a portable shield barrier, placing it quickly between the crowd and the luggage. Another officer slid a heavy blast mat across the floor. Everyone moved with precision, but their faces betrayed their fear. This wasn't a drill. This was real. Mark crouched beside Rex again. "We're doing it, buddy." "I hear you," he whispered. But Rex didn't calm. He continued pacing around the suitcase, nose pressed low, barking in sharp bursts. Every sound he made added pressure to the already tense atmosphere. Then the bomb squad arrived. Dressed in thick protective gear, they pushed through the secured line. One of them knelt beside Mark. "Your dog picked up something?" he asked quickly. Mark nodded. "He's never been like this. Never." The bomb technician's eyes tightened behind his visor. "All right, step back. We take it from here." But Rex refused to move. He planted himself directly in front of the suitcase, blocking anyone from getting closer. His body was rigid, protective, as if he believed whoever touched that suitcase would be in danger. Two bomb squad members carefully rolled a remote-controlled robot onto the floor. Its mechanical wheels beeped softly as it moved forward. Officers watching held their breath. Passengers' hands covered their mouths. The robot extended its metal arm toward the suitcase. Rex growled, low and fierce, warning them again. Mark felt a chill run down his spine. Whatever was inside that suitcase, Rex believed it wasn't just dangerous. It was alive with something dark, and time was slipping away. The robot rolled forward with a soft mechanical hum, its clawed arm extending toward the gray suitcase. Every eye in the room followed its movement. Officers had formed a full perimeter now, guns holstered, radios buzzing, feet tense and ready. The flashing red emergency lights washed the room in pulses of color, making the moment feel even heavier. Rex growled again, louder this time. One bomb technician stepped closer, speaking carefully. "Easy, boy. Let us check." But Rex wasn't listening. He moved in a tight circle, his nose inches from the suitcase, inhaling deeply as if trying to confirm something horrifying. His body shook with stress, ears pinned forward, fur bristling, nails scraping the floor. Mark had never seen him like this. The robot finally reached the suitcase, its metal arm pressed gently against the side, applying minimal pressure. A soft beep followed as it began its scan. Everyone held their breath. The nervous owner stood far behind, surrounded by two officers. His hands trembled uncontrollably. His voice barely came out. I swear I don't know anything." "Quiet," an officer snapped. "You'll answer questions later." The robot paused. A technician stared at his monitor. Mark leaned forward slightly. "Anything?" "Not yet," the technician muttered, eyes narrowing behind his visor. "But something's off." The robot shifted position, its sensor panel sweeping across the suitcase again. Another beep, another pause. The technician's frown deepened. "There's no metal, no wires, no explosive signatures." Officers exchanged confused glances. "So, it's safe?" one of them asked. Before the technician could answer, Rex suddenly barked. Sharp, frantic, and terrified. Not aggressive, not warning, terrified. The bomb squad froze. The scanner beeped again, but this time the sound was different, longer, irregular. The technician's face tightened. "Hold on. There's a hollow compartment inside. Something dense. Not explosive, but something organic." Mark's stomach dropped. "Organic? Like food?" The technician shook his head slowly. "Too large. And the density reading is strange. This isn't clothing. It's something else." The suitcase vibrated slightly as the robot nudged it again. Rex snapped, full force, throwing his body between the robot and the bag, barking as if he were trying to stop them from touching it. "Rex, back!" Mark shouted, but Rex didn't move. The bomb squad leader stepped forward. "We need to open it, now." Rex's barking intensified, his eyes fixed on the suitcase with a look Mark had only seen once before, during a missing child case. He wasn't afraid of an explosion. He was afraid of what they would find inside. And for the first time, Mark felt a cold fear settle into his chest. This wasn't a bomb. It was something worse. The bomb squad leader knelt beside the suitcase, carefully lifting the robot away as Rex continued barking with desperate urgency. The technicians exchanged tense glances before the leader spoke. "Everyone step back. We're opening it manually." Officers tightened the perimeter. Passengers pressed against the far walls, eyes wide with fear. The nervous owner trembled violently now, shaking his head over and over. "Please, don't open it. I mean, I didn't pack anything dangerous. I swear." "Quiet," an officer snapped. "Stand still." The bomb squad leader pulled on thick protective gloves. His partner gripped the blast shield, ready to slam it down if needed. Mark watched, heart pounding, one hand on Rex's collar as the dog whined in pure distress. Then the leader slipped a metal tool into the zipper. Click. The first lock opened. Rex barked so violently that Mark had to wrap both arms around him to stop him from lunging again. Click. The second lock snapped loose. A chilling silence filled the room. The buzzing lights, the hum of the conveyor belt, the murmuring crowd, all faded into nothing. Every breath held, every muscle stiffened. The bomb leader slowly lifted the lid, and the moment the suitcase opened, everyone froze. Inside the case was no bomb, no drugs, no weapons. Instead, there was a false bottom, a hidden compartment sealed shut with thick industrial straps. The leader sliced through them and lifted the panel, revealing a small pile of objects that made Mark's stomach twist. A tiny shoe, a child's shirt, torn and stained, a plastic bracelet, a small stuffed toy crushed flat against the corner. But the worst part wasn't the items. It was the dark, dried streaks smeared across the compartment floor. Blood, fresh enough that the metallic scent reached even the officers standing several feet away. Gasps erupted among the passengers. Rex whimpered, lowering his head inside the suitcase, sniffing deeply, then barking in a heartbreaking mixture of fear and rage. His tail pointed stiffly downward, his signal for human scent, specifically a child's. Mark felt the blood drain from his face. "This is a kidnapping case," he whispered. The bomb leader nodded grimly. "And whoever this suitcase belongs to isn't just traveling." One officer pulled out a stack of papers tucked beneath the toy. His voice trembled as he read. "These are travel routes, airports, dates, photos of children." The owner finally broke. He dropped to his knees, hands shaking, mouth opening without sound. Mark stared at him, horrified. Rex had been right all along. This suitcase wasn't carrying explosives. It was carrying someone's nightmare. And the truth was far darker than anyone in that airport was ready to face. The air felt heavier, as if the entire baggage hall had stopped breathing. Officers stared at the suitcase's contents in stunned silence. The small shoe, the stained shirt, the crushed stuffed toy, and the blood, dark, dried, horrifying. Rex paced around the bag, whining urgently, nose darting from one item to another, recognizing human scent that shouldn't have been there. A senior officer stepped forward, pulling on gloves. He lifted the tiny bracelet from the suitcase and examined it closely. "There's a name on this," he murmured. He turned it over, revealing a small engraving. Mark leaned in. The name read, "Lena." The room fell still. Another officer gasped, eyes widening. "Wait, Lena? That's the missing child from yesterday's Amber Alert, the one taken from the city playground." Mark's heart dropped. He remembered the alert, the posters, the news reports, the desperate parents begging for help. The child had vanished without a trace. No leads, no witnesses, nothing. Until now. The bomb squad leader exhaled slowly. This suitcase was used to transport her. An officer opened a file found inside the suitcase, pages filled with coded notes, airport names, flight routes, and dates. One page contained a list of cities and times, each one crossed out in red ink, except the last line. "Next target, Gate 27, 10:45 a.m. Mark stiffened. "Gate 27. That's here. Today." Rex suddenly barked, loud, intense, then ran toward the suitcase owner, stopping just inches from him, growling with a terrifying certainty that made everyone take notice. The man shook his head violently. "No, no, you don't understand. I didn't hurt anyone. I swear I didn't touch that child." An officer snapped. "Then why is her blood in your suitcase?" I didn't know. Someone must have switched my bag," he stuttered, but his voice cracked, and even he didn't believe the lie. The officer holding the documents lifted another photo, this time of a child's bedroom, with a timestamp and location scribbled in the corner. The man's eyes darted toward it, and panic flooded his face. Mark stepped closer, eyes narrowing. "This isn't your first time." The man flinched. Rex growled again, loud, vibrating through the room. One officer whispered, "This guy is part of a trafficking network. He has to be." The senior officer nodded grimly. "The suitcase wasn't random. It's a method. They sedate kids, hide them in false compartments, and transport them through airports." Passengers who overheard gasped in horror. Mark's fist tightened. This wasn't just a suspicious bag. This was evidence of a crime so dark that Rex had sensed it before anyone else. And now the truth was unavoidable. The missing child had been inside this very suitcase, and whoever put her there was still somewhere in this airport. The moment the officers connected the suitcase to the missing child, the entire atmosphere shifted. The nervous owner's face drained of color, his hands trembling so violently that his passport nearly slipped from his grip. Rex's growl deepened, echoing across the hall like a warning no one could ignore. Two officers stepped closer. "Sir, don't move," one ordered. But the man did the opposite. In a sudden burst of panic, he spun around and sprinted toward the nearest exit. "He's running!" an officer shouted. Chaos erupted instantly. Passengers screamed and pressed against the walls as officers lunged forward. Mark tried to secure Rex, But the German Shepherd had already sensed the danger. The leash slipped through Mark's hand like water. Rex exploded into a full sprint. His paws thundered across the floor, nails scraping against the tiles as he chased the fleeing man. The suspect crashed into a luggage cart, shoving it aside as he ran. Suitcases toppled over, a stroller flipped, and a woman screamed as she pulled her child out of the way. "Stop! Police!" an officer yelled. The man didn't stop. He darted through the crowd, knocking people aside, desperate to escape before the truth swallowed him whole. His breath came in ragged gasps, his steps sloppy and frantic. He looked over his shoulder, and that was his mistake. Rex leapt. With incredible force, the K9 slammed into the man's back, sending him crashing onto the cold floor. The suspect cried out as Rex pinned him down, teeth bared but not biting, just holding him there, furious but controlled. Officers rushed in, surrounding them. "Get his hands! Cuff him! Now! Rex, release!" Rex stepped back instantly, panting hard, chest heaving from the chase. His eyes stayed locked on the man, ready to pounce again if needed. Mark grabbed Rex's harness and knelt beside him, whispering, "Good boy. You got him." The man's mask of panic shattered. Tears streamed down his face as officers forced his hands behind his back. I didn't mean to. I swear," he sobbed. Mark stared at him coldly. "You tried to run. Innocent people don't run like that." One officer held up a document taken from his jacket, another list of times, locations, and initials. "He's not just involved, he's part of a network." Passengers whispered in horror. "Is he a kidnapper? Oh my God, that dog saved someone today." As officers hauled the man to his feet, Rex growled softly one last time. Not in anger, but in certainty. He had caught the right man. The danger wasn't over yet, but one monster had been stopped. The suspect sat handcuffed on the floor, head bowed, breath shaky. Officers surrounded him, but none spoke at first. The weight of what they had discovered hung in the air like a dark cloud. Rex stood a few feet away, chest rising and falling, eyes fixed sharply on the man, as if daring him to lie again. A detective arrived on scene, flipping through the documents found in the suitcase. His expression hardened with every page. "This isn't just one child," he said quietly. "These are records of multiple transfers, different airports, different dates. He's been doing this for months." Passengers gasped softly, clutching their bags tighter. Even the officers shifted uncomfortably. Mark stepped closer. "What kind of transfers? What does this mean?" The detective pointed at a list filled with codes and initials. "These aren't flight times. They're drop-offs, pickups, exchanges." He pulled out another paper, this one showing diagrams of false suitcase compartments, each designed to hide a small child for hours. Mark felt sick. "So that suitcase wasn't an accident?" "No," the detective replied grimly. "It was a method, a system." He took a deep breath. And he wasn't working alone. The suspect jerked his head up. "I'm not the one who started it," he shouted, voice shaking. They forced me. I just did the transports. I never touched the kids." Rex growled low, calling out the lie instantly. The detective crouched in front of the suspect. "Then who did? Who's they?" he demanded. The man looked away, jaw trembling. "You don't understand. If I talk, they'll kill me." Mark leaned forward. "They're not going to kill you. But if you don't talk, kids will keep disappearing." The man squeezed his eyes shut, tears dripping onto the floor. "There's a group. They move children across borders for money. Airports are the easiest way. They sedate the kids, hide them in the compartments, switch suitcases at checkpoints. I just transported." "Where is the girl? Where is Lena?" an officer snapped. The man shook his head fiercely. "She escaped. Yesterday, at the last stop. I wasn't supposed to report it. They said if I did, they'd come after me next." Mark's heart pounded. "Escaped? Where did she go?" "I don't know," he cried. "She ran when the sedative wore off. They tried to catch her, but she got away." Rex suddenly barked, a sharp, hopeful sound. The detective exchanged a glance with Mark. If she escaped, she might still be nearby. She might still be alive. Mark placed a steady hand on Rex's neck. This wasn't about a suitcase anymore. It was about rescuing a child who had beaten the odds and was somewhere out there waiting to be found. And Rex wasn't going to stop until they did. News of the discovery spread through the airport faster than anyone expected. Within minutes, officers from different terminals arrived, shaking their heads in disbelief as they looked at the suitcase, the documents, and the trembling suspect. But the person everyone kept glancing at, the one at the center of it all, was Rex. The German shepherd sat tall beside Mark, chest rising steadily, eyes sharp and alert. His fur was still bristled, but there was something else in his posture now. Purpose, determination, a quiet confidence only a true K9 hero carried. Passengers whispered from behind the barricades, "That dog saved a child. He knew something was wrong before anyone else. He's a real hero." A mother hugged her daughter tightly, tears running down her cheeks. A businessman who had earlier complained about delays now stood in stunned silence. Even airport staff, usually busy and detached, watched Rex with admiration. A senior officer approached Mark with a rare look of amazement. "Your partner, he didn't just stop a criminal operation, he prevented another kidnapping. If that suitcase had passed inspection..." He stopped, unable to finish. Mark looked down at Rex, gently rubbing behind his ears. "He felt it before any of us did," he said quietly. "He always does." Rex lifted his head proudly, scanning the crowd again, as if making sure no other threats lurked nearby. The detective who had reviewed the documents walked over, carrying a folder. "This entire network could fall apart because of what your dog sensed today," he said. "We're organizing teams now to track the missing girl." Rex's ears perked up at the mention of her. Mark knelt beside him. "You helped her once," he whispered. "We'll help her again." Officers began coordinating, radios buzzing everywhere. "Send her photo to every terminal. Check all entrances and exits. Review security footage from the last 24 hours. Dispatch units to nearby areas." The entire airport turned into a coordinated search effort, and Rex became the symbol of it. The K9 unit commander approached with a soft smile. "Mark, your dog deserves recognition for this. I've never seen a K9 react with such intensity and accuracy." Mark placed a hand on Rex's chest. "He didn't do it for praise. He did it because a child was in danger." Rex whined softly as if agreeing. Another officer leaned in. "If that little girl is still nearby, he might be able to track her." Mark's breath caught. He looked into Rex's eyes. "You want to find her, don't you, boy?" Rex's tail lifted slightly, just enough to show he understood. The crowd watched as Rex stood up, nose lifting to the air, ready to continue the mission he had started. The airport had just witnessed a hero in action, but Rex wasn't finished, not until the missing child was found. Rex lowered his head to the ground, nose twitching rapidly as he sniffed the air with sharp precision. Mark loosened the leash, watching every subtle movement of his partner. Officers stepped aside, clearing a path. The entire airport seemed to hold its breath as Rex began walking. Slow at first, then faster, following an invisible trail no human could understand. Mark hurried behind him. "Easy, boy. Show me where," he whispered. Rex led them past the baggage area, through a side hallway, and toward a maintenance corridor rarely used by passengers. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead. Officers followed in tense silence, hands on radios, ready for anything. Rex suddenly stopped. His ears perked, his tail stiffened. He let out a soft, heart-piercing whine. Mark stepped forward and saw her. A tiny girl, no older than 6, was curled behind a cleaning cart, hugging her knees to her chest. Her clothes were dirty, her hair tangled, her eyes wide with fear. She looked weak, exhausted, but alive. Mark gasped. "Lena!" The child flinched at his voice, shielding herself, but Rex gently lowered himself onto the floor, inching forward with slow, careful movements. He whimpered softly, the kind of sound meant to comfort, not scare. Lena peeked through trembling fingers, her eyes locked onto Rex. For a moment the world went quiet, then slowly, shakily, she reached out a tiny hand. Rex moved closer, gently placing his nose into her palm. The little girl burst into tears, collapsing against his fur. Rex pressed his head to her shoulder, breathing softly, comforting her with every warm exhale. Mark swallowed hard, emotion tightening his throat. Officers stood behind him, many wiping their eyes. "You found her, buddy," Mark whispered. "You saved her life." Two paramedics rushed in, checking Lena carefully. "She's dehydrated but stable," one said. "This dog, he found her just in time." Lena clutched Rex's fur, refusing to let go. "Don't leave," she cried softly. "Please don't leave me." Mark knelt beside her. "He's not going anywhere. He's your protector." Rex gently nudged her cheek, as if promising he would keep her safe. As officers carried away the suspect in handcuffs, passengers gathered nearby, whispering in awe. "That dog is an angel. He saved that little girl. He's a hero." Hours later, as Lena was reunited with her parents, she reached down one last time and placed her tiny hand on Rex's head. "Thank you," she whispered. Rex's tail wagged, slow, gentle, proud. The airport had witnessed many things that day, but nothing as powerful as a child saved by a dog who refused to ignore danger. A true hero, a life saved, a story no one would ever forget.